they like this problem where they show you the system damping down, right? And they say estimate the Q factor of the spring, right? And there's two formulas for Q factor here, but what we want to do is we want to use Q is 2 pi, and then it's the ratio of the energy stored to the energy dissipated, right? Or energy lost, right? Okay. And so, the question is, how can you tell the energy stored or dissipated per cycle? What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the formula E total is 1/2 m omega squared x naught squared. So x naught is the amplitude, right? Okay. Now, technically speaking, our energy stored is going to be 1/2 the mass that I don't know, the omega, which I could figure out here, but it turns out I don't need that, right? Times the amplitude, and I can read the amplitude, right? The amplitude is 3 centimeters, right? Or sorry, whoops, 4 centimeters. Right, and I'm going to square that. So this is my stored, right? And then the amount lost is 1/2 m omega squared times 4 centimeters squared. And then if you notice in the second cycle, and this is per cycle, right? In the second cycle, it actually is, well, let's just see. And we got to read the graph carefully. But isn't that 3? Right? If you read it carefully, it's 2 is divided into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So each square is 0.4, and 2.5 0.4 is 1, right? So this is 3. This height here is 3 centimeters. So I'm going to go minus 1/2 m omega squared 3 squared. Those are centimeters. Okay. Now, so understand what I'm doing here, right? So the energy stored is our original energy, right? And then the amount lost is going from 4 to 3 in one cycle. This is per cycle. Okay, is what it says on that, right? Okay, notice that I don't need to know the halves all cancel. I can multiply the top and bottom by 2, right? I can divide the top and bottom by m, and the m's go away. I can divide the top and the bottom by omega squared. So even though I could read that off the graph, I don't need to, right? And you end up with that the Q is equal to 2 pi times 4 squared divided by 4 squared, whoops, minus 3 squared, right? And if you do that, if you do it just right, if you get your calculator out, of course you need your calculator, right? If you get out your calculator, if you pull out a calculator to do that, not that I'm just grabbing my calculator right now, that's not what's going on. Okay, so 4 squared divided by 4 squared minus 3 squared times 2 times pi. You get the answer of 14.36, which is about 14, which is the correct answer in the mark scheme. That's the Q factor. And remember, it's this pure number. It doesn't have any units. So happy hunting.